Max just released the first 2 episodes of an Adventure Time sequel series, Fiona and Cake. Now, in the original show, Fiona and Cake are presented as entirely fictional characters within the world of Adventure Time. But this new series changes our perspective on who these characters really are right in the first episode. So go watch the series now if you haven't already, and then come back here to see the rest of this video because we have major spoilers ahead. Also, for those who do want to talk more about the show, why not come down to our Discord server? We've got an Adventure Time channel where you can hang out and talk about the show as new episodes premiere. Link will be in the pinned comment down below. Now, Fiona and Cake first appeared in Adventure Time as sort of gender-bent fanfiction characters made by the Ice King so that he could write stories about Finn and Jake. In each of the few episodes of the original series about Fiona and Cake, we would meet some of our favorite Adventure Time characters as the opposite gender, at least until the final episode in the original Cake and Fiona subplot, which featured Ice King supposedly meeting the real Fiona, who is now an old woman. Now, as supposed proof of her identity, she has a videotape of her adventures in the past, one that Ice King had actually written about. We later learn that this is actually not a human at all, and she's really just a modern inhabitant of Oo who happened to find a VHS tape containing an episode of a Fiona and Cake TV series, which apparently was a real show deep in the past of Oo before the apocalypse that led to the world as we know it. We later learn that these episodes are somehow beamed directly to the Ice King's crown while he sleeps, something he mentioned before, but that appeared to be a joke about the weird dreams he has. This was the end of the Fiona and Cake story within the original Adventure Time run, with the concept not being important to the overarching story of the show, but that all changed with this new miniseries. The first episode opened with Fiona, however, instead of being an adventuring girl in the gender-bent world of Oo, she's actually just a normal girl living and working in the city. Here, Cake isn't some talking sidekick, but just a regular cat that Fiona is struggling to take care of. The tone of this episode, and especially the background art, is very similar to Bee and Puppy Cat. It's interesting to note that Bee and Puppy Cat was created by Natasha Allegri, who designed Fiona and Cake back in the original Adventure Time episode that they appeared in. This episode opens with a dream of Fiona's where she and Cake are Sailor Moon-styled heroes who dream of a handsome Ice King character who joins them on their adventures, but she quickly wakes up and remembers that she lives in a dull, boring world similar to our own. As the episode progresses, we meet all of the gender-bent characters of Adventure Time in their human 20th century forms. While giving a historical bus tour for work, we meet Marshall Lee, who is still a fun young rock-loving guy carrying around his guitar. And then Fiona goes to a bakery where she meets Prince Bubblegum, here known as Gary. After getting fired and having a bad day with Cake, Fiona wishes that the world would be more magical, insisting that it really should be that way. This all ends with her cat Cake jumping into some ice and somehow through a magical portal, something she had been trying to do for a few days, seemingly because of the strange dream she and Fiona were having. This was a mind-blowing half-hour episode, something that still maintains the humor and silliness of Adventure Time, but also felt more tightly written as opposed to the more improvised nature of the original board-driven show. This is the premiere, so we received a second episode as well, with new episodes coming every Thursday for the next 8 weeks after it. Episode 2 opened with what looked like Simon, the original form of the Ice King, back in the 20th century. However, we eventually reveal that Simon is now living in a 20th century human museum exhibit for the modern people of Oo to see. I say modern people of Oo as this takes place sometime after the original series, with Finn now being an adult. For most of the series proper, Simon was of course the Ice King, a maniac who kidnapped princesses with the ice powers his strange crown gave him. Over time, we learn that he was once a human living in the 20th century who studied ancient artifacts, some of which claimed to be magical. He got his hands on the magical crown that gave him his ice powers, but it also made him go strangely insane the more he wore it. During the series, the Ice King, temporarily returning to Simon, would open up a time portal that allowed his 20th century girlfriend to join him 1,000 years later in Oo. He would turn back to the Ice King, however, and Betty would spend her time trying to study magic in order to cure Simon of the effects of the crown. To do this, she summoned Golb, a sort of primordial chaos being who seeks to disrupt the harmony of existence. Her plan backfired when she and Simon were swallowed by Gulb, which began to revert them and their items back to their baser forms. For the crown, this reset it, meaning it was no longer the Ice Crown. You see, deep in Oo's past, in the time of dinosaurs, the original elemental of ice created the crown with special jewels that would grant the wish of the first person to wear it. This was to stop an incoming comet that would destroy all life on Oo. Due to a tragic accident, the crown had to be worn by the assistant to the original ice elemental, who was named Gunter. Gunter wished to be like the ice elemental, and the crown could only grant your wish in the context of your heart's true desire. When Gunter put the crown on, he wished to be like the ice elemental, but Gunter was a rather simple dinosaur and had a very limited understanding of the ice elemental and his personality. This wish gave the powers of the ice elemental to whoever wore the crown, but it also turned that person into a very caricaturized version of what Gunter thought the ice elemental was like. Everyone who wears the Ice King's crown then goes insane with visions of needing to freeze the Earth in order to somehow save it, as the original Gunter seemed to freeze the comet that was going to hit the Earth, but also brought the world into an early ice age in the process. With the powers reset while being digested inside of Gulb in the Adventure Time finale, Betty is able to make a wish that she can protect Simon, which fuses her with Gulb, preventing Gulb's destruction of reality when she returns to the less existent state that Gulb manifested from. Since then, the world of Oo seems to be doing well, but Simon, as this new series shows, is trapped in his new existence. He has his sanity back, but no Betty. He doesn't live back in his own time even, but is stuck in an even weirder Oo than the one we saw in the Adventure Time finale, with all the modern humans and other creatures evolving far beyond him. He says he sometimes even misses being the Ice King, because it at least came with a power that allowed him to properly interact with this world, something he proves over and over again that he just can't do without the assistance of a modern human like the grown-up Finn to help him. Since returning to his non-magical state, the works of Fiona and Cake have seemingly become popular, but Simon no longer enjoys them, despite having fans who would love him to write more. Simon decides he wants to be with Betty, and tries to use some magic to get to her as Gulb, but when his thoughts get distracted by talk of Fiona, he ends up creating a pathway not to Betty as he was supposed to focus on, but on Fiona and Cake. From this, out of the back of Simon's head, jumps Cake out of a portal, presumably after traveling through the ice portal from Fiona's town. The last thing we see before the episode ends is the Time Cube, which had quite the intense subplot in the story of Adventure Time. The Time Cube is the center of all realities, being the place that time vibrations come from that control the many different realities that exist. According to the Enchiridion, naturally occurring time tunnels can connect these worlds, as can powerful enough objects to rip open holes in time. At the center of all this is Prismo, a being that lives in the Time Cube that grants wishes. Prismo is an entity that only exists when his host body sleeps. This was originally some old man, but across his adventures with Jake and Finn, an alternate reality version of Jake ended up taking the place of the sleeping man so that Prismo can exist to connect all realities. The inclusion of the Time Cube like this suggests that Prismo and the Time Cube are connected to the time rift that opened through Simon's mind, but where will this all go? I imagine Fiona will join Cake in Oo, and she'll experience the world that the Ice King tried writing her into, but with all the original characters. This means Finn, adult Finn that is, could end up meeting Fiona as well. Prismo and the Time Cube will probably be important in helping to restore everyone back to their right time and place, and along the way, we'll learn how Fiona's adventures in Oo perhaps inspire the TV show that was being beamed into the Ice King's crown, which were found on VHSs. It would seem to me that this miniseries will show Fiona going on the magical adventures she wished she could have in that first episode, but also seeing how much more dangerous and difficult it is than she wanted. By the end of the season, she will probably return to her time in the 20th century, and from there will go on to turn Fiona and Cake into its own TV show. That would then be found on the VHS tapes in the present of Oo, as well as in the Ice King's crown when beamed to them at night. She already voiced the desire to do something creative like making video games, and it would be interesting for her to essentially make the show Adventure Time by having traveled to the future and experiencing it for herself and inserting herself as the character of Finn. Perhaps Simon will give Fiona perspective on why the 20th century was the right time and place for them, and how Ooh is wonderful, but not where they belong, and together they'll return to their proper time. From here, Simon can enjoy the last of his life in the 20th century, even without Betty, but making peace with that now that he's home. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts on Adventure Time in the comments down below, and don't forget to join our Discord to talk more about Fiona and Cake. See you guys next time.